So our third point is crew bonding. So obviously on race day, it's really important that you're moving together with your crew the entire day. You do everything together and you have a common goal that you work towards. You don't really want to have any disagreements. So you want to essentially handle those things beforehand. So how can people do that?
Again, it's going to depend on a bunch of different things, but just thinking about this point, there's probably a lot of clubs where you have limited time in your crew, or if you're a small club, the crew that you're racing at the start of the season is likely to be the same towards the end of the season. And if you don't generally have a lot of time to spend socially with your crew, then a whole day at regatta together is a great opportunity to get to know everyone a bit better. I do think it's important to stick together generally as a crew, but I also think it's important to make sure that you speak to each other about how you deal with stress and nerves, because some people get really loud and chatty and they just want to chat and talk about something completely irrelevant, and other people will get really quiet and they'll just go in their own head a little bit, and that's fine. Like, it's fine to deal with nerves the way you want to deal with it. Obviously, if you're struggling and you want some help, or you want to talk to a more experienced member of the crew, that's also important. But you don't want to be sat down in a tiny little corner of a tent somewhere with the chatty person going on off on one while you just want to sit there and be quiet, or you want to listen to your music. And you don't want to. If you're the kind of person that likes to go tired or listen to music, it's not that you don't want to listen to your crew or you're trying to be offensive. So I think it can come across that way. If someone's trying to talk, or that point that they're sat down for half an hour, they want to run through options and stuff, and you really don't. So I would say, as a crew at the start of the day, just sit down and go around everyone and just have them talk a little bit about how they think they're going to react to nerves and stress, and just make sure that you know that. Because that also is not going to stress you. If half an hour before race time you think, Jesus, Tom's just got really tight, like quiet, like maybe there's something wrong with Tom. But if Tom said earlier in the day, no, I just get quiet, like that's me, like cool, okay. Again, it's like just stopping, just getting rid of anything that's going to make you nervous.
And same thing with the chatty person. So Tom might go a bit quiet, but Pete might get a little bit more chatty because, for example, the way that some people calm their nerves is through just sharing them and verbalizing them. So I think it's so crucial to know what makes other people in your crew tick. So then you can just work as a unit, and you can focus on doing the best that you can on the water, and not about what some people are doing or thinking or something that annoys you, etc., etc.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you're sticking to a plan as a crew, like you say, you're warming up together, you're maybe getting changed together, or making sure you go, you all walk to the changing rooms together and come back together. I just think that's like a really good way of running through that process. And then, like I say, first event of the season will probably be a lot less important to your whole crew than, say, Henley, if Henley is the aim for your season. But everything you do in that first run, you then have a base. If you've all done it and you've done it together, you all get to sit down afterwards and say, we liked this, we didn't like this, we thought we should move the warm-up. Then every time you race, you can adjust this a small amount. And by the time you get to Henley, then you can, then you're going to be absolutely as prepared as you can be. And the other thing is, even say if you were at regatta, maybe it's your first regatta, you're a novice event, or you're an event which you don't think you're going to win, or the competition is going to be tough. Like, adjust your goals as a crew, because if the aim for that season is not to win Wallingford Regatta, it's to do something at Henley, whether that be get through a round or qualify. It doesn't matter if you win or lose at Wallingford. You want to make sure you're using these events for you, and you're getting the most out of it that you need as a crew. So if you as a crew need to go and practice certain things in the warm-up, or you need to go and practice a race plan, do that for you. Don't get too caught up in anything. And the other thing I'd say is, the point to doing all of these things, you can do everything perfect and go out in your race and lose by 3 lengths and say that, well, we could have lost by 3 lengths, or we could have lost by 4 lengths, or 3 or 3.5. But you're practicing all these things so that when the day comes that you're in a race and it's side by side with 300 meters to go, all those little things that you've done and you've practiced will be the difference between winning and losing. Because at some point you'll have that close race, and making sure that you have done all these processes beforehand that's when it gets really close, these things really are going to show and make the difference.
And having unified goal with your crew about what you want to get out of a regatta, or whether you want to practice something or whether you just genuinely want to win the event, it's going to help massively with the debrief. Because if, for example, half of the crew wanted to win and the other half just cared about getting to the A final, well, how are you going to debrief constructively? You're going to try and create like different sort of opinions inside of the crew. So you want to make sure you're all looking at the same goal, and then when it comes to like analyzing the performance, could we have done this better? Well, yes, but were we trying to do that? No. And then
it's going to depend.
You can mix and match.
If you've got a coach, your coach, I would have thought, will set out the aim for the regatta and what you want to do. But like we said, we know there's a lot of smaller clubs where they don't necessarily going to have their coach with them the whole time, or one coach is covering a bunch of different crews. And we talked about, when I coach rowers or when I try and get information out, I want people to understand like why we're talking about that. Because as a coach, you can just say, here is your aim, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to do, here and here. But then if you actually allow people to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and you're getting them to build up a picture of it, then they're going to be more able to go off and do things. And as you progress for your own career, you might start at school and you're almost likely to have a coach with you all the time. You're a junior, you're going to be looked after. There's going to be someone driving you to and from the regatta. But as you get older and as you progress, you're going to find yourself in situations where that's not the case. If you go to Boston trials, say, as an under 23, if you start trialing at university, you'll probably have to drive yourself there or share a car. You're going to have to get yourself ready. You're going to have to know when to boat. There's not going to be that coach who's going to shout at you, so get on the water now, you're late. So understanding like why you're doing these things, I think is important, like especially if you want to progress your career or you want to get further in rowing. But no, I would agree with you definitely. If you're going to sit down and have that chat at the start of the day, like we said about how I react to nerves, how I'm going to be throughout this day, then another great thing to talk about would be to make sure that you have a unified goal of what you're trying to achieve. And like I said, I think you can, if you're aware of what you need to get out of the event, you can use it for yourself. You can use, to the most extreme example, watching the New Zealand pair use Henley Royal Regatta as a training event. They knew they were better. This is probably on the flip side than for most people, but they knew they were better than the competition. They knew they could win it. So they were training. I was in the Leander gym. I watched them do like an 18k erg in the morning before they raced that afternoon. I didn't even know they were racing that day, but yeah, they went out and raced. So that it's about understanding like how you can get the best benefit out of it, and not necessarily being like totally down if you didn't win. I think you learn more from your losses anyway. But in general, making sure you have like a unified goal, and you can just really get the most out of that event. And the more you get out of every event, the more you will progress, the better you will get. And like you say, as it gets to the sharp end of the racing season, the better the position you'll be in.
And it doesn't sometimes always even come down to the fact that, your coach might not be available or anything. Regatta timings can be tough. If there are a few races that are like, shifted closely, a coach might have to literally send you off, watch you race, and then cycle straight back out to the start line because they've got another race to follow. Cool. I'm really shocked about that New Zealand pair anecdote.
And they weren't going light either. I was watching them pull like 46s, 47s.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That is grim in general.
For them, they understood the assignment. They understood that each event was about maximizing their boat speed, and that's what they were doing.
Amazing. So I think that's just about it for our top tips. It's nice to talk about summer racing. It's reminiscing about the old days of pressure and, achievement and winning and losing. Like I miss all of this. And to me, racing was definitely like the most fun part of rowing. Like that's what you did all of that training for, is to sit at that start line and hear 2 minutes and hear all your crews being like called up and named, and then just wait for that buzzer to go and just to leave everything on the track. So if some of this can help some of you, then objective achieved, I think.
Yeah, I think the takeaway, like you said, is just allow yourself to perform the best you can. So everything that you're doing is working towards that. Um, you can get really specific, and you can really, you can do your research on the absolute best drink for recovery or for energy, but also, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. And things like nutrition, at the end of the day, nutrition is nutrition, and you can have it perfect, or you can have it 90%, and unless you're racing an Olympic final, that's probably going to be good enough. So as much as trying to do your best with everything, it's also just understanding that what's good for you, or what you like, is also good, and just making sure that you're not overstressing yourself from certain things. I think the other thing is, like, yeah, exactly. Racing is fun. Like, can be really nerve-wracking, especially if it's your first race or the first time you've been doing this event. It can be really, really nerve-wracking. And I think sometimes a lot of the enjoyment comes from afterwards, from feeling like you dealt with it. I dealt with that pressure. I did that race. Whether you won, lost, draw, I performed well. I overcame my nerves. I got my race done. I had a good performance. So, like, that's a lot of the joy in it for me as well. But with things like nerves, just make sure you remember, everyone has them. It's totally normal. It helps you perform. If you were sat on the start line and you didn't give a crap about what you were doing or where you were, and you were thinking about having to have sausages for dinner, you're probably not going to have the best performance. So just remember, as nervous as you are, and sometimes you have that, or I had that voice in my head, being like, oh my God, this is awful. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. This has got absolutely, really, like, racked with nerves. Just remember, like, that's your body getting you ready for it. So, I think they're the takeaways. If anyone wants any other questions answered, like, feel free to drop them in the comments, or message us on Instagram, and we'll make sure we do that.